Welcome back to the Impact Podcast.
We're here with another relationship episode. We have special guests to go on about what we were talking about last episode.
Unfortunately, Kavisha couldn't make it, but we're wishing her and her family well due to this coronavirus situation. But yeah, so today we're here with
Josh.
And Sarah.
I wasn't sure if you just forgot our names then, or if you wanted to.
Well,
We're the cars.
yeah. So, what do you do, Josh? We'll start with you. What do you do?
What do I do?
Do everything. Don't
Yeah, I do quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I am the worship pastor at Com Church, where we are right now. I also do all of the video content for church as part of my job. I also run a video production company. And I also have 2 escape rooms as well.
Yeah, Locked Escapes.
Yeah, at Locked Escapes. Yeah, follow us.
You'll be under the descriptions.
Yeah, we'll link that. We'll put that somewhere. But Sarah, what about you? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a senior account executive at a marketing firm
Sounds
in
so
Dunstable.
fancy.
So I'm in marketing
Yeah.
and advertising, all that jazz. So yeah,
That sounds so fancy. Sounds
it's good. It's good.
So, so how did you guys meet?
So we met when my university, Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, did missions all over the world, and my team got picked to come to Dunstable, England, of all places. And so Josh met us at the airport when we landed, and that,
That's so sick.
that was that.
Yeah, I was young and sprightly and about 2 stone lighter and very trendy. Just caught
That's
everybody's
sick.
eye.
That's sick. I remember when you guys came.
And you had like a little party upstairs.
Yeah, literally in this building, and I think you came with a bunch of other people as well.
Yeah, we had about 20 in our group in total. So yeah, that was really fun. We came and did missions in the town, and then went to London and did some things there as well, and then went to Scotland. So we did a little tour of the
that's
UK.
mad.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then about 6 months later, I guess you could say I slid into Sarah's DMs.
Ooh, smooth.
That's what cool people say these days.
Yeah, slide in the DMs. And that. I hear that. Fair
As you
enough.
do, as you do.
And then after that, Sarah came back about 1 year later to Dunstable to do an internship with us at church. And then we kind of just hit it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been about 2 months here. We're just friends, and then I think it just progressed
It
further.
was very organic.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you could say it happened naturally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So would you say it was a? I know it sounds kind of like Disney movie-like, but would you say it was like love at first sight or anything? Like,
I wouldn't say it was that. I would say when I saw him at the airport, I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. All right, I'm on missions. Jesus goggles. So like, I wasn't trying to think about all that. That wasn't
Yeah.
my mindset. But
Makes
then
sense.
we like grew our friendship because I was coming over for an internship, and like he's the one who kind of like offered that position in a sense to me, and so like we got to know each other. We'd FaceTime all the time. We were like really good friends, and I was just
Yeah,
like,
it was definitely friendship first, I think.
I love
Like
that.
we obviously both found each other attractive, but that wasn't what we kind of started, how it started. It was definitely a friendship. We found out that we had a lot in common. Like we both do the same kind of jobs in a way. Like we both enjoy the same things, same kind of common interests. And I think that's where we really found that we connected well on those things.
makes sense.
yeah. So we were really good friends, and that was starting out. And then I was like, Mom, I don't think I'm going to date him. I'm going to come over. And I was like, made this point of like, I just knew it was going to be something for some reason.
Did you see his
I like
face?
remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, it's not going to happen. Like, it's an internship. Like, no way.
You never
And
know what
then-
can happen, though. You never know what can happen.
And then he knelt down on a stairwell and asked me out. He's like, oh, so we're dating now. I was like, no, you haven't actually asked me out yet. And so
Oh, is it?
he knelt down and
Josh.
proposed to
Smooth
me
with
in
it,
the
smooth with it.
stairwell.
That's the game. That's the game.
Yeah.
I
And
have to
then,
teach
yeah.
certain men as well. Yeah. I have to teach certain men. But
Yeah, you gotta step it up. You gotta ask. Gotta make it. Define the relationship,
yeah, I guess
as you would
so.
say.
But-
FBO it.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting though. I feel like the best relationships are the ones that start off as friends.
Yeah, you get to
I
connect
feel-
more and
yeah.
you learn more about a person before you get into a relationship.
Exactly.
Which is easier.
So it's like you kind of know them, and the relationship comes sort of as a friendship as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
And I think that's especially important, and I've realised now that we're married, is that there are going to be times when, kind of in a romantic way, you don't always get along, or like there's friction there, there's tension. But ultimately, if you're friends and you've got a deep friendship and you find things that you enjoy together and you connect together on, you share the same interests and beliefs, that's what holds you together. And I think that's what marriage is about. It's about, being with your best friend for the rest of your life. And I know that with Sarah, like we're best friends. Like we just have our stupid jokes that we have with each other, and we lie there and crack jokes at each other and stuff like that. And I think we're just really good friends. So even on those days when, it's hard to be married, like we're still best of friends. And I think that's the kind of foundation that you need. And I think people need to realize that I think sometimes the misconception of marriage is that it's just this kind of like intense, like fiery, like passionate kind of constant thing, and that's not sustainable. Like, and a marriage goes from what I know of 3 years and from what I've spoken to with other people, is that it kind of goes a bit like this. But to have that kind of constant friendship going through, that's the kind of glue that can hold a marriage together and like a relationship together.
Yeah. Because obviously we all know that relationships and marriage and all of that, it's not all ups, it's not all happy days and that, because there's always difficulties, but it's about how you could get together
and move on.
Reconcile, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say it's like just doing life with a partner. You're living your life and you've got something there always. Hey, babe, can you do this for me? Or like, can you pray for me? Or like, you have that other person in your life constantly to like help you through life and just make it through life. So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's really important to obviously have that relationship and someone you can always turn to.
Yeah.
So in this relationship, how would you make God the center of your relationship?
Yeah, so we pray every night together. We just, for our each individual selves, God is our center. So when we like are together in a marriage, it automatically is the center anyway, and He always like pulls us back to Him whenever we're like, let me do my thing. So like He is the center regardless if we almost make Him it, because He's God, He's got us. So, but we have to like always put in the work as well to like pray together constantly and like make sure He stays
we read
front of
scripture to each
mind.
other and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we'll have like our worship music on when we're getting ready in the morning and in the evening, I think it's so important. Like Sarah says, it starts with a personal journey first. Like we each personally have to be right with God, and I think this is the thing that I've kind of speculated and seen over the last however long I've been in church, is that there are marriages where one person is going to church, is a Christian, and the other person might not be, but ultimately that person can't have a relationship with God for the other person. Like it has to be an individual thing. Otherwise you end up with a complete imbalance. 100%. And that's why it's very hard to be in a relationship with someone that doesn't share that same belief set as you. But for us, like Sarah says, it has to be an individual thing first and foremost. And then when both of you are like, well, Jesus is the center of my life, then He becomes, like Sarah says, He becomes the center of your marriage as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a unequally yoked marriage as well. That was like one of the key indicators for us getting married. We both had God, and it was a priority for us, and so we were balanced in that sense, and it wasn't offset in any way. So
because I definitely mentioned it in the last episode that having Jesus sort of makes it the foundation, and you mentioned it being unbalanced if it's not, right? And it's really important for us to, even when we are in a relationship, when I do get into a relationship, and when Aiden does, and obviously,
hopefully one day, boys.
Yeah, one day, that we do sort of make sure that us as individuals are on track with God.
That's right. And I remember Julian said he once told me, Pastor Julian, that he had one piece of marriage advice, and basically what he said was, in all the couples that he's ever counseled with kind of relationship problems, he's never met one couple in that were having difficulties that were praying together. He said that's always the root issue, is that the couples have stopped praying together. And I think that's super important, and that's something that I really take to heart. And that's even before we were married, Like, we were probably better at it then, actually, about praying together, and we'd have huge lists of people that we wanted to bless and to pray for. And I think even as you're starting out, like, even when you're just starting out a relationship, making that time, even if it's on FaceTime, to pray together is just so important. You can't go wrong with that.
100%.
Josh, so you said you were married. So when did it come to you that you wanted to ask her to marry you?
I think I knew. Probably we went. So Sarah was over here, and then sort of a few months later, I went to America. Like, it was the first time I'd ever been to America.
Yeah, we dated long distance.
Yeah, we dated long distance for quite a while, and so we'd be kind of been, you know, having a back and forth every day. We'd kind of Skype each other or FaceTime each other, and then I went over for about 2.5 weeks and spent time with Sarah's family and like her mum and dad, who I'd only ever met like on FaceTime, and just had a great time with them, and they kind of instilled their confidence in me, and I had kind of confidence in them, and like, I think just being over there with Sarah in her kind of natural kind of surroundings, as it were, like, I think I just like really fell in love with her and kind of saw like who she was and like her culture, and I just loved everything about it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it was in that moment in Texas when I was like, actually, you know what, this is, you know, someone that I really, really care about. And like, the fact that I can fly all the way over here to America, and like, that doesn't like matter at all. Like, the distance didn't bother me. It was just the fact that I just knew that Sarah was the one I wanted to be with. So I think it was then. It wasn't until December. It was like months later when I asked her to marry me. But I think it was at that point, really spending that time with her and her family, that I really just realised that was, for me, what I wanted.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned that you two are dating long distance quite a bit. I guess now a lot of long distance relationships don't really work out. But what is it about yours that stood out against others?
I think we just put the time in. If it meant waking up at 2 a.m. to like say good morning to him, or him staying up to like 2 to like
sometimes, yes,
catch me after work, things like that. It was just putting the effort in and like making the sacrifice of, no, I'm not going to hang out with my friends. I'm going to go FaceTime him instead for hours on end and just get to know him and like develop that relationship. So
yeah, I think it was putting in the legwork, and like I said, it was praying. Like, we'd play games over like Words with Friends and all these kind of things. Like, we would just try and make it as fun as possible, and also not put too much pressure on it either. Like, it was we just enjoyed each other's company. Like, certainly at that time, it never felt like a chore. Like, it was hard at times. Like, I'd literally stay up at 2 a.m, or I'd set an alarm and get up in the middle of the night. But yeah, I think it was just like, it's the effort, isn't it?
yeah, and I think we're better for it because our communication was so on par from constantly chatting and talking to each other that when we came over here, we had it down pat. And we looked at some couples, were like, oh goodness, do they not communicate like that? And it's
I
almost like we took it for granted, but like we've got it down so well because of that. So I think that's really helped us in our marriage. So
yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so during the Pure Sex series that we did as a church, so we spoke about sex before marriage and stuff like that. Yeah, so how did you cope with that in your relationship, I guess?
yeah, so I'll start out with some background on this. I wasn't always a Christian, and I have had sex before marriage, but Josh doesn't have that background. So when we came together, we're like, oh, okay, all right. But since I am a Christian, I like devoted that back to the Lord, and I said I'm not having sex before marriage.
And it had been like years and years
yeah,
and years.
probably like 8 years. So that was hard, but the Lord gave me the grace for that. Thanks, Lord. And so it was a struggle for us in our relationship being together when we actually were together. But since we did long distance, that helped in it. But
yeah,
when
because
we
we weren't together all the time, and I think
a struggle. It was a struggle.
Yeah,
it always
it's
will
hard.
be. So
I think that we kind of set boundaries, and I tried to stick to them as best we could. And I'm quite proud of the fact that we didn't have sex before marriage. Like, I know, people do, and God can redeem that. But I just think there's something really sacred about keeping that. And
100%.
it's one of the kind of few fundamentals, like real deep down beliefs that I think I had, and I know Sarah had too, and it's just something we didn't want to do. And I think God will help you, like he'll help you honour that commitment if you continue to put him first. And I think again we just kept praying, and just he helped us through it. But yeah, it's hard, and I think especially when you're young, and even when you're dating when you're even younger, like if you're like 18, 19, obviously your sex drive is even more than when you're like 25, 26. So I know that it's difficult, but I think you just have to offer it up to the Lord.
Yeah, and he will definitely help you through it. Like, not to say we didn't mess up and things like that, but we stayed true to that commitment, and the Lord honored it, and we're blessed for it in our marriage. So it was important to us, and I think because it was important to us, like, that's why we stuck to it. So,
and I think there's also a point like that, for people that are watching that maybe aren't Christians, or maybe they haven't been Christians very long, and maybe have a past like Sarah before Jesus. It's just that God can redeem that. That doesn't have to make you. It doesn't have to define you. And it goes with sex, but it goes with drugs or toxic relationships, or with other addictions, or whatever it may be. That God can redeem that. Do you know what I mean? Just because you were that person before doesn't mean that you have to carry that with you into your new life. So I think that's really important to say.
We're new creations in Christ, so you have to remember that. Yeah.
Is there anything that you did personally as a couple that sort of helped you to get through that, like sort of not having sex before marriage that other couples may? Is there anything that you did to sort of like help you through that?
I think it'd just be like, if it was getting like close to that line, we would like pray or be like, okay, no, or we'd have
to take a time out.
Yeah, like leave the room, or like there's just things that we had to do to mitigate that.
And I think we often made sure that we were in the house with other people. Like at the time, kind of before we got married, when we were engaged, Sarah was living with Pastor Julian and Sarah, so there was really always somebody home. I was living with my parents, so I think it's just not putting yourself in stupid situations. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I see like young couples, they're like going on holiday together, and they're like, oh, but we're not having sex, and I'm like, but why would you even put yourself in that situation? Like, it seems a bit silly. Yeah, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you do need to go away or do things like that, like we did it once, but we got the blessing of our pastors and our family that we could do that, and they trusted us to that, and we stayed in separate beds.
Yeah, separate beds, and we were and it was like one night, and I think we were very intentional about it, and I think it's, like I said, it's just being thoughtful and not putting yourself in stupid situations.
Yeah, know what you can handle, and if you know you can't handle it, don't put yourself in that situation.
Don't do it. Yeah.
So you guys moved in after you got married?
Yep.
Yep.
That's it. No, it is, because I was speaking to Aiden and Kavisha about this, I think the last time we were shooting, and we're talking about if it is actually acceptable, or if it's okay to move in with your partner, like, before marriage. So, I don't know, I guess, was there any temptation for you to...
I don't think so. I don't really think so. I think I've always thought that, moving in together was something that would come with marriage. Like, I'd never really entertained that. I know that's what the world view of it is. Like, why would you marry someone if you want to kind of try before you buy? That's the kind of, it's like, I want to get something on rental first to see if it fits for me before I buy it. And I think I've never really had that view. I kind of understand it, because it's like you don't want to make a commitment to someone until you know what it's like. But what I will say is, you don't really know what it's like being married until you're married. Like, there's no way you can kind of do a trial run of that. Living with someone is not the same as being married to them. And I think that's the misconception. You think, oh, I just live with them for a bit and it will be the same. But it's really not, because actually being married is not just living together. It's not just sharing lives. It's like a joining, a spiritual joining with God. Yeah. And it's a completely different thing. So I think I get why people want to do it, but I just think it's pointless. I think nothing can really prepare you for being married.
Yeah, and again, it's putting yourself in that situation where you're sharing the same bed or living in the same household. Why would you do it?
Yeah, it's just the spirit is stupid.
Yeah, it goes back to all of that, sort of making sure that don't cross that line and
Having
making sure
boundaries.
that, yeah.
But when we were having a conversation with Kavisha and Julian, he was saying that marriage is something new, and we should all jump into something new after you get married. Married, I meant. So you shouldn't be moving in before because you're jumping into something new.
Yeah, and I guess if, let's say, Josh, you have like really bad sleeping habits or you snore, guess now you're trapped now with him. So
He
I guess
does
there's no
snore.
coming out of
I
that.
will say he snores.
It's just, yeah.
So last episode you mentioned how sex was overrated or underrated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's roll the clip. People, but it's a thing where I kind of think it's overrated, but at the same time it's underrated because I'm about to explain why.
Go on.
Go on.
Confusing, but listen.
So what do you guys think of that statement?
I think sex is great. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
it is amazing. But don't cheapen it with things in this world that are not gonna fill the hole. If you're doing it for the wrong
Yeah.
reasons, it's just filling holes and are like, oh, this is good, but then you get like almost addicted to that sensation versus having like good sex under the confines of marriage and enjoying the hell out of it.
I think Sarah's right, and I think what she's saying is, when you choose to have sex before you're married, the Bible is very clear about sexual sin. It's one of the few things that specifically is listed as something that you need to watch out for. A lot, even in the New Testament, and I think that it's like having an alcoholic drink. I'm sure you boys know nothing about that. But it's like when you have an alcoholic drink and it feels great when it's going down, and then maybe the next morning you feel a little bit like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have drunk those drinks. And I think when you have sex before marriage, it can feel a little bit like that, because physically it might feel really great in the moment, but I know as soon as you've been through that, especially when you've got the Holy Spirit inside of you as a Christian, that it's going to start to feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And I think...
Yeah, he's going to convict you because
Yeah.
if you're
So
leading
it's
your life right and you go and do something like that, he's going to be like, I shouldn't have
So
done that.
then sex
He'll
would
tell you.
be sex would be overrated. So for a person that doesn't...
Underrated.
No, it's overrated.
It's overrated for
Yeah.
people that don't have a marriage.
Yeah.
So basically what we're saying is it's great when you're married, and actually God created sex for marriage. He created sex to be between man and wife, and he's very specific about that. And I think it's not just a physical act, it's a spiritual act too. And I think when you see it that way, and it's not just, oh, I'm going to go for a quickie with someone, it's like it's a different thing. Like there's something intimate about being between a man and a wife, and that's what God intended it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you create soul ties with every person that you have sex with. I don't know if you know that. It's in the Bible. It
Yeah.
says you connect and like merge in a sense. So if you're not married and you have all these soul ties, you have to like think about that. And that does impact you. And you do feel different if you've had sex with lots of people. I can testify to it, so.
Yeah, we spoke about it in the last episode, right? And I guess it's more serious than people actually think it is. Some people don't even know what soul ties actually are. And I guess with the wrong person, it could be a really, really bad place to be, I guess.
Yeah, and I think especially for young guys, and especially guys that maybe don't know Jesus yet, there's this kind of like status that comes with how many girls
Yeah.
you've slept with, and
Yeah.
how
Body
I've
count.
slept
Yeah,
with
body
her,
count.
I've slept with her, exactly, body count. And I think the really damaging thing about that is when you look back at it, especially from a Christian perspective, is like, actually I took that person and that person's opportunity to have sex with their husband for the first time. Like I especially, it doesn't seem selfish when you're doing it. You just think that's great, and you can tell your mates. And I think for guys it's different. But I just want to challenge people to think about that, because at the time it might be great, and it's like, wow, look at me, I'm a big man. But when you look back on it, even I know people that aren't Christians that would look back 15 years later on what they did when they were 17, 18, 19, and they feel ashamed of it, because it's
Yeah.
like, I wish I hadn't done all that. I wish I hadn't slept around. I wish I hadn't, those girls that could have had the opportunity to have sex with their husbands for the first time, like I took that, and it was selfish. And I think I really want to speak to that, because it's not cool. it's really not cool. It's not a status thing. There's nothing big about sleeping with 10 women or 20 women or 30 women. Like, just think about that.
So from that, do you think it's different for girls when you say?
I think girls are insanely shamed when they have a higher count, and it's
Yeah.
unfair. And I want to speak to that stigma because that's wrong, and we shouldn't have that on us. But yet, don't get your body count up either. So there's another shame in that sense. So I think it is extremely different. I think girls get taken advantage of. I've been assaulted at least 3 to 4 times from guys, so it is a thing.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement is real and it's on the rise, and I'm just glad that people are now shining a light on that
Yeah.
and stuff. So
I just think guys need to man up, honestly, and not see it as a status thing, not see it as like I'm a big man, but just see sex as something that's precious. It's a precious commodity. It's been given by God, and let's keep it sacred.
Yeah, and something not to be ashamed of. Yes, making sure that you let your significant other know that, look, we're gonna have to. This is what I believe, and this is what we're gonna have to do.
And ultimately, if you're with someone and they can't hack that side of you, then they're not the right person.
Yeah.
And it's not worth compromising your beliefs to appease them. Like, it's just not worth it. It really isn't.
Exactly.
yeah.
So what advice would you give to young couples at our age or older?
I think if I was talking to my 19-year-old self, for example, I would say that you can just chill out. Like, I think there's this like real pressure, especially in the Christian community, that you've got to find someone, and you've got to, it's this big spiritual thing, and you've got to find the one, and it's got to be perfect and Disney and everything else. And I think it's maybe more so for girls, but even for guys, there's that pressure. Like, your mum's like, you've got to find a nice Christian girl and all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I just think you need, especially at the age of like 17, 18, 19, it's just like chill out. And I think, there does reach a point where you have to kind of be a little bit active about it. Like, girls aren't just going to fall on your lap. Like, you got to, graft a little bit in it. But I think it's just like, it doesn't have to be this stressful thing. And I also think, controversially, I'm not really a believer in the one. Like, I personally think that whoever you choose to be with, God will bless. If you put that relationship before the Lord and say, Lord, I'm devoting this relationship, this marriage to you, then God will bless it. I think there's probably wrong people to marry, and I think, it's fairly obvious quite quickly if you're with the wrong person, and God will shut doors. But I think going around trying to find the one can actually be kind of
time-consuming.
Well, yeah, but I just think that can put you in the wrong frame of mind.
Yeah.
And you could miss opportunities that come your way.
100%.
And I think for Sarah, probably she would say that I'm not typically the kind of person that she would go for. Yeah, but do you know what I mean? But yet we still ended up together and we still built something. And I think, I think I don't know if I had a type, but I don't know. I didn't see Sarah coming, but it happened, and it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. So
Yeah.
I think with finding the one, you do need to know your standards and like what you like and what you don't like and what you're attracted to and not. So those things are good in finding like the one that you think you connect with the best. So those things should be there, but don't limit yourself to that as well. So
Yeah. Makes
you
sense.
never know.
yeah, I don't think it's like a beam of light moment when there's this like sort of light from heaven that's like,
like
this
a
is the
Disney film or-
one.
Yeah,
Like,
like that.
It's not a Hallmark movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. And so we mentioned couples in general, but how do you say, in fact, what advice would you give to Christian couples, like, exclusively, I guess?
As specifically like Christian couples.
Yeah.
Make God your priority. That's first and foremost what it should be. And he will let you know if this is when you're supposed to marry or not. He's going to give you signs. He's going to tell you. He's going to let you know as well. Like, you've got my stamp of approval. It's going to be okay. And also don't negate the warning signs if there are warning signs or red flags. If he's like, hey,
100%.
like, look my way.
Yeah,
like,
don't ignore
marry
the
this
red
person.
flags.
Like,
Don't
you
ignore-
need to like be in tune with him as a couple so it will work out. and yeah,
Yeah, and I
easy
think
flowing from there.
and I think as you go on through your relationship and your married life, if you feel like God is kind of drifting from your center, like I think he's quite good at nudging you, and you have to just listen to that nudging, like, oh, we've kind of strayed away a little bit here, or we've become too focused on finance or on family or on work or whatever. And even now, like, we feel Lord kind of nudging us, and I just have to say, like, I just need to let this go for a bit and just focus on our marriage, focus on the Lord. And I think that's important in our walks together, even in the early stages, is just to make sure that we don't drift from our walk with God.
Thank you, Josh and Sarah, for coming and sharing your story and helping people and giving advice. Thank you all for watching the Impact podcast.
Please be sure to like and subscribe, and
Leave a
comment down
comment.
below what you'd like to see next. And yeah.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Thanks.